Call the meeting to order. Want to take the roll, please?
This conference will now be recorded.
Mayor
Take the roll now.
Zakowski. I do. Mayor
Here.
Zakowski. Alderman Kittle.
Here.
Alderman Vries. Alderman Weinmeier.
Here.
Alderman Gartner.
Here.
Alderman Volkert.
Here.
I have Alderperson Kraft is absent.
Pledge of allegiance. Your motion to adopt the agenda as proposed.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Any public comments?
Nobody signed in.
Consent agenda. Do you hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make just want to say that we had some donations, one of $1,000 from Jane Larson, $500 from Ignite Dispensary, and $100 from David and Darlene Schnitzler, all for the New Richmond Police Department K-9 unit. Do you hear a motion to approve? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Donation policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet is the final draft of the donation policy. This was a policy that we reviewed during the August work session and highlighted some key aspects of it. Really, the donation policy would memorialize and provide a consistent process for the acceptance, review, and administration of donations. As Mayor Zakowski just mentioned, a few donations that were highlighted. Currently, we don't have a formalized process that really outlines that review, the acceptance, and then the administration of any type of monetary or non-monetary donation. So this policy would really help articulate what steps are taken from both a city perspective and a donor perspective, and memorializes that. As part of our process internally in developing this policy, it was also sent to department heads for review and feedback on that, and it was also reviewed by our legal counsel. Since the August work session, I haven't received back any additional feedback to incorporate any changes into the policy, so the policy in front of you tonight is what we would recommend to move forward with. So if there are any specific questions that the council has in regards to it, we'd be happy to answer it or address any of those questions, but overall staff recommends moving forward with the approval of the donation policy.
I'll make a motion to approve the donation.
I'll second it.
Any questions at all? Not, take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business. Auditor's report to City Council.
Good evening. Is that good?
Yep.
All right. I'm Amanda Mboga. I'm the manager on the city's audit, and I'm here tonight to go over some of the highlights from the 2022 audit, really specific to the governmental funds. We covered the utilities with the Utility Commission previously. So we did put together a PowerPoint presentation for it. This is going to be mostly related to the financial statement information. Just to quickly mention the other reports that we issued, there was a reporting and insights document that is a standard one you get every year, largely required communications, things that we have to let you know about as part of the audit process. And then new this year, due to the level of federal funding that you received, your audit had to be in accordance with government auditing standards. There was an additional very small report related to that. Again, not a lot of new content in there, but it has to be in a certain form and format under the standards. And then we're working on yet, going to finalize before the end of the month, the examination, which is specific to the recovery money, the state and local government fiscal recovery funds, which again is due to the level of funding and kind of comparison to the other federal awards that you have as well. So nothing of concern or anything to note in those, just wanted to let you know that that was coming yet. If we want to go to the slides, yes, the first couple of pages here are on the independent auditor's report. So this is our opinion on the financial statements. And the city did receive an unmodified, or what we sometimes call a clean opinion, which is the highest level of opinion that you can get from an audit. And that indicates that we believe the financials are presented fairly in all material respects. Management's responsibilities include the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements, as well as design, implementation, and maintenance of internal controls. On the next slide, we have auditor's responsibilities. So our responsibility is to express opinions on the financial statements based on our audit. We are required to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute. The procedures selected depend on auditor's judgment, including our risk assessments and relevant internal controls. All right, on the next slide then, dig into some of the numbers. And we'll start with the general fund fund balance. The black line on here is prior year, and the kind of greenish, bluish line would be the current year, 2022. So the top row there you can see is the total fund balance, and that increased just slightly over last year. The biggest portion of that is the unassigned fund balance, about 67%. Unassigned is basically everything that doesn't fit into one of the other categories. And so it's available for general operations and important to have for cash flow and contingency purposes. The assigned fund balance is the internal designations that the city has. And the non-spendable would be either not in spendable form, like a prepaid amount that holds value, but you're not going to be able to convert that into cash in the future, or something that will eventually be converted into cash, but not for so long into the future that you don't want to count that as an available resource right now. So that category did go up a little bit this year, and that is due to the advance to the CDA. There's $350,000 that was advanced to them, so that accounts for the entire increase and then some, so it would have been decreased without that. On the next page, some summarized income statement information. So the first column there is your actual results. You can see the net change in fund balance is a positive at $38,000. That would be that little bit of an increase that we saw on the previous chart for the total fund balance. And final budget was expecting a decrease or a net loss of about $14,000. So overall positive variance of about $53,000 to budget. And both revenues and expenditures contributed towards that, but again, very small, less than 1% variance for each of those. And the bottom section there is just the fund balance categories again, which I already talked about, so we can go to the next slide. All right, this is one of those key indicators for financial health for a general fund. Looking at your unrestricted fund balance compared to revenues for the year. So unrestricted would be the assigned and unassigned categories, and then compared to revenues. So if you follow the blue line on here again is the city's actual results. So for 2022, when we do the calculation, we come up to 40.8%. And what that means in kind of very simplified terms is that in theory, you could operate for 40% of a year without any new revenues coming in, just drawing on that fund balance that you have. That is down.
Is that high? Normal, average?
Well, it's pretty average compared to what we have for like other Baker Tilly clients.
Okay.
That would be the black dots that are on here for clients that are around your same size. So you've been right around kind of where that median average has been. We don't have results for 22 for everybody
Right.
yet, but we'll add those next year. So pretty average. I think the recommendation here, and this is probably a bare bones minimum, would be the red line on the bottom. That represents 2 months.
That's the state recommendation?
That's
Or the
the-
state,
State doesn't really have a recommendation. I would
Okay.
say this is from the Government Finance Officers Association. So that's what they would say is, you know, kind of what you need to have to make sure that you can,
well, and
Stay
you
in
don't want that. You don't
operations.
want it to be that low.
right.
We-
That's why I
we
say
certainly
bare
don't.
bones. You don't want it that low. So the level that you have looks like a good level. It's comparable to like what other municipalities have. You don't want it too high either.
No.
You know, if that's the concern, it's not too high, I would say. It's right about kind of where others are.
Yep.
I will say too, because, you know, it did decrease a little bit this year. But again, that could be attributed also to the advance to the CDA. If that was not flowing into non-spendable and it went to unrestricted instead, your number would be very comparable to last year's percentage. Okay. Next slide is looking at some debt information. So general obligation debt is limited under state statutes to 5% of your equalized value. And so on the chart here, we have the blue line on the bottom is your actual GO debt outstanding, and the black line on the top is your debt limit, so the maximum that you could issue legally. And you can see the debt has been kind of on a slow downward trend. The debt limit has been going up quite a bit, quite a large increase over the past 5 years.
Now, is that
So-
because of our population or because of the state recommendation
Value.
or our equalized value
Yep,
or
equalized value.
our building?
Yep, the values. So at this point, at the end of 2022, you are only using 25% of what you could legally issue for debt.
And is that normal? Is that high? Is that low? Is that normal?
I would say it's probably kind of low for what I have seen, but it completely depends on what your needs are.
Or your
and-
future needs are?
Yes, and we'll look on the next slide too, has some more debt information. This is just one way of looking at kind of the capacity that you have, you know,
Right.
that availability to issue and whether or not you're too debt heavy. So it's not a high percentage
No.
at all, no. We have in the table below that kind of the makeup of what makes up that total for the GO debt. Most of it is in the city funds, but the utilities also do have a portion of it, almost 2 million. The utilities also have some revenue debt, which is not subject to the limit here. They have their own requirements under those bond documents, so it's not completely without limits, but not included in what we're looking at here.
Like on our, the city could borrow up to 63 million. But what is normal and what's too high?
I don't know that I have heard a strict cap on it. I think at one point in time, I had heard like 50% is, you know, like you wouldn't want to go any higher than that. But I think it depends on, again, like what your needs are and what you have to balance that out. We certainly have had clients that are up there. They tend to be the smaller clients because they just don't have the value to draw on. That would be a good question for the financial advisors when they're looking at, like, you know, they get involved with the bond rating stuff, and that's where I think you would see if they didn't like how high your debt was. Idea of the percentage.
I know right now our bond rating is one of the best you can almost get.
Probably has something to do with that, yeah. But how much room you have before it would start to impact that, I'm not sure.
Ann probably can answer it someday.
You know the answer, Ann?
I don't have a hard and fast number in regards to that. A lot of it, when it comes to the credit rating of it, the things that have been favorable and a lot of the reason for upgrade is because of the value of the community and the growth of the community, contrasted with a lower debt amount of principal outstanding. So, they won't necessarily tell us exactly what is that hard and fast number, but they certainly, on this next slide that Amanda will be going over, they're looking at some certain ratios and percentages of things like that. So we also track those. And so once we start to tick some of those up, that could potentially, impact our credit rating. However, too, the narrative behind why we're issuing debt, credit rating agencies will take that. So if you're issuing debt for a legacy project or something that's going to bolster economic development, and there's a future return on that type of debt issuance that's seen more favorably than if debt were to be issued to cover operational gaps. So there's multiple factors that go into how they're evaluating that. But over the last 5 years, we certainly have been working to keep kind of that issuance within, or that debt outstanding, I should say, within like that 15 to 20 million. But that certainly can vary given future projects too in the capital. So, I don't know if that fully addressed everything, but
I'm assuming that because our equalized value keeps on going up every year, and you must look at that, you can see our growth in population.
it certainly does. Yep.
Have we ever been lower than 25%?
Not going back recently,
Yeah,
going
probably
back the
not.
last 8 years or 10 years.
Well, it's been around 30.
trend, it's typically been in the 35 to 30.
Okay.
That's a good question, and I see where you're going with it, because just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? The next slide, like Ryan said, I think will also be helpful. This is looking at kind of how much of your budget or how much of your annual spending goes into debt service. So the principal and interest payments for all of your governmental funds compared to the non-capital expenditures. We have to pull the capital outlay out just because that fluctuates so much. There wouldn't be much of a trend if you kept it in there. So when we do the calculation for that for 2022, again on this, the blue line being the actual for the city, we get 21.3% of your total expenditures being spent on debt service. The red line on here is what the bond rating agencies would recommend as the maximum. So ideally, you'd want to be below that line. And you guys have been slightly above it, but it's been trending in the right direction. I mean, this year you're pretty much right on it. And again, the individual black dots on here are the medians for other Baker Tilly clients of around your size. Also tends to hover right around that 20% mark. We have kind of just a point of reference on here. The X's are the high side of the range for our client data, just to give you an idea of like how much variation there is in this. So you're well below that, much closer to the kind of standard where you want to be than the higher levels. That's really what I have for my prepared content. I do want to thank the city staff for all their help in the audit. We're a lot of work, and we know it. It's a lot of time and effort to put in to get ready for us and answer all of our questions as we're going through that. So we definitely want to thank the staff for getting through that with us. Happy to take any other questions that anyone has.
Yeah, the city's in really good financial.
Yeah, I think, everything that we looked at, you guys are either, meeting the benchmark or it's trending in the right direction for that. So, overall, no concerns or anything that stood out as, something that needs to be addressed.
Item, extraterritorial jurisdiction CSM, 1539 150th Street.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight before you, we have an application from GNS Land Solutions on an extraterritorial CSM for 1539 150th Street. And if you look, oh, I think Christie's getting to it here. If you look at the location, it is south and east of the city and quite a ways out in the township of Erin Prairie. When we're analyzing these as city staff, so you'll see it in the red up there, so city limits is up a little bit further, so it's quite a ways out. We have a 3-mile radius, as you know, since we went over 10,000 in populations, so we review all of the CSMs, the ETJ CSMs up to that 3-mile radius. When we analyze this as staff, we look at a number of things from comprehensive plan to streets to easements. So it is compatible with our comprehensive plan as it's low-density residential. When we're looking at water and sewer, obviously this is far enough out where they wouldn't be annexed in shortly, and they have private wells and septic on site. No additional comments for stormwater management. And when you look at streets, they will access the new lot off of 150th Street. So if we go to the CSM, we'll take just a quick look at this break. So they're splitting this off to create one new lot. You'll see the smaller lot, which is lot 1, that's about 3.5 acres, or lot 1, and lot 2 is about 16 acres. The split will be that. Nothing really concerning for the DRC group. We brought this to Planning Commission last Tuesday, and they recommend approval, along with the DRC approval. with
I'd
the
make a
one
motion.
condition.
I would make a motion to accept the CSM for 1539 150th Street with the one recommendation.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Not take the roll, please.
Alderman Vries,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. 2023 second quarter tourism funding recommendation.
Mayor and council, at the Tourism Committee on August 15th, they reviewed second quarter funding requests. In that was a request from the New Richmond Area Chamber of Commerce for the 2023 Park Art Fair. The Tourism Committee reviewed that application and have made a recommendation to allocate room tax revenues in the amount of $6,064.07. So staff, along with the Tourism Committee, recommend approval to move forward with that funding.
Make a motion to approve the $6,004.07.
Second?
Yeah, discussion on that. Roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Vries.
Yes.
Motion passes. Authorization to bid substation materials. No?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. For the last couple of years, as you recall, we've been working through the process of updating 2 of our substations, which date back to the 1950s era infrastructure. And the Utility Commission at their last meeting discussed and voted to recommend authorizing staff to bid some of the components for these projects. Those are identified in the memo that includes transformer for the Highview substation, circuit breakers, relay panels. These components together make up an estimated cost of $1.9 million. Now these, if staff solicit bids, these have to then come back to both the Utility Commission and the Council later on this fall. Also included in your packet is just the timeline. You can see the various steps that have been completed so far to date, as well as the various milestones that will be met in 2024 and then through 2025. So very significant project, and staff would like to continue moving forward with soliciting bids. So the recommendation from the Utility Commission was to authorize staff to solicit bids for those components and to bring those back to you later on this fall.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second?
Any,
Third. Just as a comment, this is part of that bigger project that we've approved.
that won't be done until next year, probably?
Yeah, the project goes into 2025 even, so just the lead time for production of some of this equipment. We've been working through this really for the last couple of years through the engineering design. Now it really starts to get into some of the actual, bidding of some of the various components. So, at the end of the day, it's represents about a $5 million project, so very significant. But certainly, as we've talked in the past about needs and wants, there's a need to be able to turn the lights on and have electricity. And again, right now, as the community continues to grow, especially in the summertime when we see that peak demand increasing a little bit each year, as another year goes by, we're at a higher risk of a mass failure if there is a power outage. It's difficult to find and replace the parts, and certainly something that's long overdue.
Really this year, on really hot days where a lot of energy is being used, what part of our maximum are we at? Any idea?
We are still okay this summer. We certainly had some warm days, and a lot of folks, running air conditioner units and things that certainly put stress on the system. So it is something we continue to monitor. This year, one thing we sent out to our customers was just reminders to try to avoid using electricity at some of those peak times. So trying to avoid doing laundry, running your oven kind of those peak evening hours if at all possible. We do have plans in place if there ever was a need to actually contact some of our larger power customers to actually work with them to try to reduce their demand, but we haven't had to exercise those plans. So, so far so good, but certainly something we continue to monitor during those peak summer times.
Not take the roll, please.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Passes. Utilities Commission recommendation, design services, utilities, public works, campus improvements.
So one of the projects included in our 2024 capital improvement plan is updates to the campus for public works, electric, and water. Previously, the council and utility commission both authorized staff to solicit bids for the engineering and design portion of that project. Included in your packet, you can see we received proposals from 4 different consultants. You'll see 2 columns. So staff originally just reviewed the qualifications of each firm, and then we also after that looked at the costs. And actually, our recommendation initially also matches up who had the low bid, which sometimes isn't the case. But our recommendation was to move forward with River Valley Architects. And the estimated project cost for them is $97,500. So this, again, would go through the engineering design process for the project. We would still have to solicit bids in 2024. Those bids would still have to come back to the council. So still several steps remaining in this project, but this continues. Taking another step forward allows us to work with engineers, designs, really to finalize and get those building plans that are ready to bid out. So the recommendation from staff as well as the utility commission was to award the contract to River Valley Architects in the amount of $97,500. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
How would this be financed?
So this project is eligible for impact fees. So initially,
Okay.
that's likely what we would be using.
Okay.
But then if we were to actually move forward with construction in '24, we would review financing options and what the various sources of funds would be for this project, as well as in the bigger context of all of our capital projects. The timing of things as well could play a role in that. So
Would it be a utility city split, or as far as the funding goes?
So the Public Works building is the smallest portion of that project. If
Yep.
you recall, when we went through the various options, that would just be a cold storage building.
Mm.
So the bulk of this project would be borne by the utilities.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the bridge.
Second? All, or, do you want to take the roll, please?
One question. Have we worked with River Valley before?
Not recently, but I believe several years ago we've worked with them. They have done some work in this area. So they
Okay.
were interested. They have been interested in some other projects in the past. So we think there's value too in just having a fresh set of eyes
Okay.
as well.
I
So-
just don't recognize the name, so, and we're okay with their background and what they've
Yes.
done in the past?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we check references, very impressed with their proposal.
Okay, thanks.
Now you want to take the roll, please?
Alderman Volkert,
Yes.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Freeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Appointment to boards and commissions, September.
So we have just one recommendation for this evening, and that was another citizen appointment for our Ethics Board. If you recall, previously we approved 3 citizens to the board. This would be an additional, so we still will have 1 vacancy remaining on the Ethics Board. But the recommended appointment is Larry G. This would be for a 1-year term to the Ethics Board.
I'll move to accept Larry G. on the.
Second?
Not take the roll, please.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Freeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner,
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Motion passes. Memorandum of Understanding, Richmond Golf Club and Big Ring Flyers Apex Cycling.
For the last couple of years, New Richmond was host to the Fat Bike World Championships at the New Richmond Golf Course. In the Big Ring Flyers, Apex Cycling, as a local cycling group, was able to loan equipment and was responsible for grooming the course, which was used not only by the fat tire bike enthusiasts, but also just local community members looking to get out and cross-country ski, snowshoe, hike. And so while in this upcoming winter, New Richmond will not be hosting the Fat Bike World Championships, they would like to continue to offer that as a recreational opportunity for the community. And so included in your agenda packet is a memorandum of understanding. This would be between the city, the golf club, and the local cycling group. And this would basically for the next 5 years allow this type of program and events to continue to occur at the golf course. Now, this is beneficial, especially for the Big Ring Flyers, because currently they don't own a lot of the grooming equipment that they need to continue to do that. And so as they look to potentially purchase or lease equipment, they don't want to make that type of investment if a year or 2 from now they're going to find out, oh, you can't use the golf course anymore. So this helps them with some of their long-term planning. It also just lays out some of the, addresses any liability concerns between any of the parties. It really tries to instill that there needs to be good communication. So if the local cycling club looks to have an event, they've got to communicate that with the board for the golf course. It also addresses things like parking, use of the clubhouse. So hopefully kind of memorializes more in writing versus just having a handshake agreement. We understand there's changes over time on various boards, and we really think this is a win-win for everybody and really provides a lot of value to the community. It has been reviewed by legal counsel. It still needs to be approved by the other 2 parties, but we wanted to bring it forward to you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, if the council is comfortable approving it, you can do so this evening. There may still be some revisions based on feedback from the other 2 parties. But if you're comfortable, it's something that staff and legal counsel can address any final edits and then have this executed before we head into winter here in the coming months. So.
Would the final be coming back to the council, or would we give you the rights to
So this
tweak it?
this would be the final document unless there was any final edits or wordsmithing from the other
What I'm saying is if
parties,
the other
but-
2 parties have questions or want to change things, would that come back to the council?
So it depends on your motion this evening. If you're comfortable with staff and council finalizing those, if you want, one risk of saying what has to come back to us is there might be 2 words that change, and now it has to, come back a month later yet, and.
But there could be one paragraph that changes
Yep,
also.
certainly could be.
Yeah.
Yep. So really, it
So-
depends
so-
on your comfort with legal counsel and staff.
Well, I'm
Updating those.
fine with our legal counsel and staff. From their point of view, we need to know that they are going to approve this before.
Guess
We
if we
approve
would, I
this.
guess if we would pass this, we would ask substantial changes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we just include that.
Yeah,
Unless our, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
The motion very well could be to authorize staff to finalize the agreement, and if there are any material changes, then we would bring it back to the council.
That's what I'm
Otherwise, if-
asking.
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
just
I'd make
routine.
that- I'd make that motion, Nick, thank you.
I got
Whatever
that
you-
motion.
Whatever he said.
Got you.
So who's gonna bear all the costs of this then? Are they gonna pay for all the costs of grooming and that?
the costs of
Yeah.
Big Ring Flyer's gonna pay for all that?
equipment, or what costs are?
Some of it's our
Costs
equipment.
affiliated with grooming out there.
They haven't even, they're very early in the stages of looking at what that equipment would cost. That would be addressed outside of this agreement, whether that be donations, grants, whether they would apply for tourism dollars. But they're not gonna, even go down that route if they don't know that, again,
Oh, sure. Yeah,
they
I
even have that
understand
agreement,
Yeah.
so.
I just wondering who's paying all the costs on it.
So that would be addressed separately outside of this agreement.
You wanna take the roll, please?
I'll second that, by the way,
Oh, I thought
Michelle.
you did already.
Okay.
Jim's still in Europe, so hang on.
Alderman Freeze.
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Motion passes. Park Board recommendation, Hatfield Park Concrete Project.
So staff solicited bids to replace some of the existing asphalt at Hatfield Park by the baseball fields, and to replace this with concrete. We received 2 bids. The low bid was from Solid Rock Custom Concrete in the amount of $32,400. Actually, both bids are very close. You can see within a couple $100 of each other. Some of the local associations have also expressed that they would like to contribute to this project. So we would have formal agreements with those associations. Initially, the Softball Association has expressed interest in contributing up to $12,000 towards the project. And Richmond Youth Baseball has expressed interest in contributing up to $6,000 to the project. So that certainly helps offset the project cost. Because the project is over $25,000, we brought this both to the park board, and then it comes to the council this evening. So the recommendation from the park board was to recommend the low bid from Solid Rock Custom Concrete in the amount of $32,400. Happy to answer any questions you might have, and others. Craig is also the chair for the park board. So.
Yeah, and I would make the motion to accept that $32,000 bid with the caveat that we get the 12,000 and we get the 6,000 prior to starting construction or prior to starting the work. Because I don't think we have either of their checks yet.
No, not
I know
yet.
they've had communications, but I want to make sure that we get those before we start the project. That would be my motion.
Solid Rock's done good work. They did all
Yep.
the tee pads at the golf course.
Yeah, they,
That does good work.
yep.
Any other questions?
I do. Where is this concrete going to be?
Yeah, so this would be kind of in the general area by the fields 1 and 2,
In
kind of by
between
the
field 1
concession
and 2.
stand.
Yeah.
Stands are currently in the,
Yeah, kind of by the, bleach. There used to be some trees that were there that were removed a few years ago. So currently the majority of that is asphalt. So this would be replacing it.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Now you want to take the roll, please?
I have a motion. I didn't have a second on that one.
I'll second it.
And also, The motion that came from Park Board was that the contracts were in place before the work began, but not necessarily the payment. So if you had a signed agreement that they were going to pay those shares, that was the motion from the Park Board. So are you changing the motion for council to be that
No, I
payment
am
is in
not.
hand?
No, I am not. You're correct.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine. I know one of them, I'm not sure which one, was asking if they could pay X amount for 3 or 4 years. And the park board said that would be fine as long as they ended up paying the 12,000 and paying the 6,000 within a reasonable amount of time. Well, you weren't at the meeting. You're right. So to have a contract in place, I think that's what the park board was saying. That's correct. Thank you.
Now ready?
The problem
Alderman
was,
Weinmeier.
yeah, the problem was, some of them don't have those funds right now, but with fees coming in the spring and all the kids playing whatever softball or baseball there is, they will get fees in and they could budget for that for next year. So they might not have it on hand. So the agreement,
If
I
the signed
No.
contract is in place.
We're
yes,
saying the contract is
Yep.
okay.
I think so. Yes,
I have to second it again then after you change.
yes. Is
I'll se-
that,
I'll second
you're
it
seconding that again?
I will,
Okay.
yep.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm
All
sorry.
right, no worries. I was
Well,
paying
first-
attention.
First and seconded out now?
I think we're seconded out, yeah.
Take the roll, please.
Alderman Weinmeier.
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
Yes.
Alderman Volkert.
Yes.
Alderman Kittle.
Yes.
Alderman Breeze.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mary Park entrance sign.
So this item is just an update for the council and just really some more public awareness. As some of you may know, or if you've gone by Mary Park for the last couple of months, we've had the main entrance to the park blocked off. So during Fun Fest, there was a food delivery vehicle that struck the entrance sign to Mary Park. So we've had some cones and caution tape kind of blocking that off. We've been working through the process with our claims adjuster, and we also had staff from SEH come just to evaluate the structural integrity of the signage that dates back several decades. And this is an item that will go forward to the park board later this fall. Staff are still evaluating options, getting costs of various options, whether that be restoring the sign, whether it be removing the sign, whether it be removing a portion of the sign. So a lot of different options that we're still evaluating. But we know that a lot of times when people think of Mary Park, kind of that iconic archway is one of the first things that come to mind. And so we certainly don't want to just rush to make a decision on this without having any information available to the public. And so we really wanted to bring it to the council this evening to encourage those who may watch the meeting, might read about the meeting here in the coming weeks, that if they have feedback, ideas, opinions, one way or another, to certainly reach out to the council, the park board, staff. We certainly want to solicit that feedback. At the same time, we do have to make a decision soon because there are timelines for anytime you have an insurance claim to actually proceed with moving, with whatever alternative we may select. So including the packet, we do have a short report from SEH that just talks about what they've observed in their evaluation of the entrance, and then you can also see some of the photos. I'm just showing some of the cracks and damages there. So certainly I encourage people to, if they have strong feelings one way or another on, would they like to see that restored? Would they, maybe the sign is moved, maybe it becomes a monument sign in the park. A lot of different options and ideas that we can have out there, but certainly encourage people to reach out if they have questions, any feedback. And then our next park board meeting would be the last Wednesday of September. So that agenda hasn't yet been finalized, but we would intend to bring this forward to them in September. So happy to answer any questions that the council might have, but really just more for public information and awareness tonight.
And we're not dealing with our insurance company. This is the insurance company of the truck that.
Yeah, I would too. It's been there as long as I've been here, but I did go up with Wes and look at it a little bit. Wes, but
Rob.
Ron, and looked at it a little bit, but again, and the fact that we have an insurance claim,
Well, the only, I don't know
Need
if
to
we ought to
get
get
repaired.
into a big discussion now about it, that probably can be done at the park board, but if someone's hit that, it's low. Have other vehicles in and out of, aren't gonna be able to get into the park because of the height. And again, this isn't the time for the discussion, but I think there's a lot of.
And staff will be obtaining some estimates for what it would cost to do some of this work. And so, yeah, a lot more discussion to continue, but just wanted to make the council aware of it. And certainly those who, if they read about it in the newspaper, if they read the minutes, to certainly reach out. We want to certainly welcome public feedback when it comes to this.
Any communication or miscellaneous?
I mean, yes. Real
Oh, here we
quick.
go.
This Thursday, September 14th, the library is hosting 2 point of history walks, one at 11 and one at 6, so you can pre-register, but you can sign up. It's a 1-mile loop that starts at the library, and you can walk the 6 points of history and learn how to use the QR code to find out significant events that happened at those points in our beginnings as a community. And
A mile?
yeah, a 1-mile loop. You have an hour to complete it. We're going to be walking very slowly.
Okay.
He's gonna be driving next to you with the windows down.
Can I have my scooter? Can I
And then, yes, you can come with the scooter. Also, we recently had a library trustee step down as they're moving outside the community. So that is going to be posting on our website tomorrow, that opportunity to apply for a board and commission spot. So just to give you guys all a heads up.
The requirement on that one is they must live within the city limits. Know of anyone.
Any other communication or miscellaneous? If not, do you hear a motion to go in closed session per state statute 19.851E?
make that motion?
I'll second. Thought Ron was gonna.
Want to take the roll, please?
Alderman Volkert,
No.
Alderman Kittle,
Yes.
Alderman Breeze,
Yes.
Alderman Weinmeier,
Yes.
Alderman Gartner.
yes.
Motion passes, we're in closed session.